Soldier 11's voice actor, Emery Chase, confirms she was replaced because she was unwilling to perform work not covered by an SAG interim agreement during a strike for AI protections, the outcome of which will determine the future of our industry. So this is a tweet. There was a follow-up tweet made by Lycan's voice actor. I also saw this over on the Honkai Star Rail subreddit earlier. Looks like HoYoverse has started replacing voice actors on strike. Changes the English voice actors for Agents Lycan and Soldier 11 replace the corresponding voice lines. The entire voice lines. Holy crap. Okay, let's take a look at the tweets one by one. Hey proxies, I was replaced as Soldier 11 because I am unwilling to perform work not covered by SAG interim agreement during a strike for AI protections, the outcome of which will determine the future of our industry. Any other theories that pop up are incorrect. So she made this very public, very definitive statement here. Now, I agree. I don't think that characters, in-game characters, should be replaced by AI because AI, at least right now, AI lacks the feeling and raw emotion that actual actors can put into their work, into creating and bringing these characters to life. So this right here is her not wanting to be replaced by AI. I am fully on board with that, and I see absolutely nothing wrong with them striking to protect themselves from being replaced. If they are replaced by AI, you're literally having some sweaty dude sit down in his chair, having AI generated rather than dozens of incredibly talented people who have made bringing characters to life their life work. Like, that is their art. AI cannot at present replicate art. So I'd like to clarify that there is a difference between being struck and not being on an interim agreement. Union projects that began work prior to the strike and non-union projects are not struck, but they also do not offer the union-enforced AI rights that we're fighting. Many actors are choosing to voluntarily withhold work on these categories of projects because we feel it is the best way to support the union's fight for the protections that are critical to our continued ability to create the art we love. So they're not being protected, and to stand up for themselves, for their rights, they're choosing not to voice the characters in the games that they are contractually obligated to perform for, right? Now, I understand where she's coming from, but at the same time, I understand where the studios are coming from. You are contractually obligated to fulfill your role in, you know, a video game, an anime, whatever. So being replaced makes sense. If you were not going to fulfill the obligation that you were contractually obligated for, then the studio has every right to just discontinue their partnership with you, right? You're not voicing their character, they will replace you. It is all well and good to stand up for your rights and for the rights of your peers and co-workers, but at the same time, you can't expect to just strike and then not be replaced, right? I fully support the striking here. I fully support standing up for AI protections, but at the same time, I also understand Hoyo being like, well, if you're not gonna come into work, then you're gonna be replaced. Companies using voice actors to generate AI voice. It only takes 30 seconds of audio to fully mimic someone's voice. So hire a voice actor together, do a few lines and get rid of them. No, I understand that, yeah. No, I think that's terrible. I think, again, I could fully support AI protection, but at the same time, I also don't think Hoyo is in the wrong for replacing the actors with character or with people that are willing to continue voicing the characters in their games, because I mean that's why you sign a contract, right? Companies using AI voice that is in the likeness of the voice actor, they think it's fair to get compensation for that. I agree as well. Oh yeah, there are like the dude that played Mufasa in The Lion King, James Earl Jones, I think his name is. He struck a deal with Disney where he would earn, you know, a set revenue, but they were given the freedom to use the likeness of his voice indefinitely. And I think being rewarded or compensated for the use of the likeness of your voice is definitely necessary when signing a contract to work alongside a studio like this, definitely. Before we go any further, I do want to take a moment here to thank all of my incredible patrons over on Patreon and my YouTube channel members who allow for me to continue to do dedicated videos like this every single day. You guys are absolutely phenomenal, and I genuinely cannot thank you all enough for the support. So that was doing the dubbing for Hoyo was shady. I remember that. I do remember that that was the case like a year or two ago when there was already drama circulating with Honkai Star Rail. Many actors are choosing to voluntarily withhold work on these categories of projects because we feel it is the best way to support the union's fight for the protections that are critical to our continued ability to create the art that we love. I knew that by withholding work, it was possible that I'd be replaced. Though, of course, I hoped they would choose to leave her silent until I was able to return. I found out the role was recast today alongside all of you. So she goes on to state, I knew that by not working, I could potentially be replaced. So she knew this going into it, right? She hoped that they would just leave her character and multiple different characters that were in support of just silent rather than trying to maintain the quality that players deserve. But in, you know, typical fashion, she found out the role was recast today with everyone else instead of her agent, instead of the studio reaching out to her and being like, hey, so, you know, we're having a little bit of difficulty here with you. We understand that. So if you don't, you know, come into work to continue voicing the character that you were contractually obligated to voice, then we're going to go ahead and replace you. And then, you know, at that point, you then have the option, okay, you know, go ahead and replace me, or no, I'm gonna come into work. She did not receive that option, and that is very shady, incredibly shady, and really disgusting from the studio that they do that to her. They wouldn't even tell her what was going on and just immediately axe her on the spot. That sucks. She thought she was special and learned. She wasn't. There are numerous different voice actors that did this, and numerous different voice actors all got cut. She gambled her career and evidently lost the gamble. Once again, I fully support AI protections, but if you're gonna gamble, expect to lose. I loved working on Zenless Zone Zero and would have been thrilled to return to the project post-strike or with an interim agreement, but I stand by my choices regardless of the outcome. All my best wishes to the cast and the production team. Thank you for a great ride, Proxies. That's rough. That's very rough. That's too much from the voice actors. They're not following the agreements though. They're not. Yeah, that's my point. Like, you sign an agreement, you're contractually obligated to voice the character, and if you don't fulfill your contractual obligations, then the studio is no longer, you know, has no obligation to you to maintain that contract. As sucky as that is, they just want AI protection. That's it. But if you're gonna stand up for your morals and for what you believe in, you gotta expect people to smack you back down. The voice actor life when it comes to Hoyo, truth. Losing contracts with Hoyo is one of the biggest regrets for them for sure. It will be, because, I mean, this could potentially inhibit them from voicing a character in Ask to Weave Haven. It could influence their potential work in the new Honkai game. Like, this is definitely a big hit. Now, I will note, this is actually one of the reasons I love Kudo's dubbing studio, and that is because the studio that Kudo uses for Wuthering Waves is the same studio, or at least uses a lot of the voice actors that Reverse 1999 uses, that Black Beacon is using. These are studios that worked on Baldur's Gate 3 for some of the voice actors, and that, like, they're using a British or European dubbing studio rather than a North American one, I believe. Don't quote me on that, correct me if I'm wrong, but different studio, not the same issues or concerns. So I appreciate that Kudo aren't gonna have that issue moving forward. Nicholas, who was the apparently voice of Lycan, stated that he quoted her and said, "This is what I've been quiet about. I'm not SAG, but what game companies want to do with AI is an existential threat. I took a personal stand to ask for protection. I had to be willing to give up the best thing that's ever happened in my professional life. I stand by my choice." So he lost his role, he lost his cast, his position, as Lycan, because he also just wanted AI protection. And once again, I understand, I genuinely do. I understand wanting AI protection for art, I understand wanting AI protection for music, for voice acting, but at the same time, you know, even he states here, I had to be willing to give up the best thing that ever happened, because he gave up a role in Zenless, he gave up a role potentially for all future upcoming Hoyo games. And as you know, Hoyo's games are some of the biggest gacha games in the world. So he might have just did irreparable damage. Same with Emery, she might have done irreparable damage to her career in the gacha scene, but they stood up for what they believe in. We can't fault them for that. The fact that the studio did not reach out to them to try and come to an agreement is incredibly shitty. and that is not what they deserve as voice actors. So neither party is necessarily like, all right. So the voice actors, they just wanted protection. They have every right to this, but the company also has every right to terminate their contract with them because they didn't come into work. If you don't come into work, you get fired. It's that simple. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you support them or not. I do not think the studio was in the wrong here for terminating their contracts. I do think the studio is in the wrong for how they handled the termination of their contracts. So that's what I think. Shitty situation either way. Morally, the studio fucked up. Oh yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that the studio, you know, they handled this incredibly poorly and incorrectly. But when you sign a contract stating this is what I will do, and you do not fulfill your obligations for that contract, then the studio, whoever holds the rights for the contract, has every right to terminate you. It doesn't matter if, you know, you support that or don't support that. That is what contracts are drafted up for and signed for. So it might be a shitty situation. I might think the studio did, you know, horribly in terms of maintaining and reinforcing their stance on it. But at the same time, they have the legal right and the high ground here. So that's it. It sucks. And I hope the voice actors find something better. Hey, where do you think you're going? I see what you're doing there. I see you navigating on over, scrolling on over to that X button. Don't you dare. What I need you to do is take a moment and click one of the videos that are about to appear as soon as I'm done talking. And trust me, you're gonna want it.